I didn't hear you.
Ready?
Okay. All right. Doctor.
What in the world?
PhD. Tell everybody a little bit about you, what you do. Talk about the Sankofa movement and all of that stuff. Am I saying it right?
Yeah. Sankofa Circle. All right,
Yeah.
so I'm Shemariah. My pronouns are she and her. I have the opportunity to be the founder and the lead experience curator with Sankofa Circle. And Sankofa Circle is a boutique consulting firm for creative entrepreneurs. So we support folks around capacity building, one-on-one coaching, event curation, and then also we have fiscal agency services. So for folks who are trying to get grants for their art or make their community better, we can help to run that on the back end for them.
Cool. Hold on a second. You're kind of lagging. I don't know why. Seem like you're lagging on your end or no?
No, seems to be moving on my end.
I'm trying to close some of these windows down. Hold on. I'm gonna edit that and make it all nice and lovely. Give me some more. Tell me some more about, being an African American woman and having a PhD, the pressures of getting that. Just tell me something about that. Like, can you touch on that some?
Sure. So, not only is it my lived experience, it's also my research. So my research is based in a concept called mother work and how to begin to translate that as pedagogy for educators primarily. So being a Black woman in higher ed is hard. Being a Black woman is hard. Being Black is hard. Oh, it's hard. Being in spaces that were not designed for you, right? Not designed for you as a Black person, not designed for you as a woman. When we think about education in the United States, the American education system, it wasn't designed for women, especially not high school, secondary school, colleges, universities, and definitely not a terminal degree program. So it's definitely been a challenge, but it's been a growth experience. I've had an opportunity to become a better Shemariah. And so that means as a person of color, as a woman, as a mom, as a colleague, as a daughter, as a partner. So just really understanding more about the world, so the systems and the institutions that we are a part of, and how we can show up in those systems and institutions and negotiate our identity. And for me, when I say mother work, that's the nurturing, that's the love, that's the care that many of us as Black women do because it's in us. It's a part of our mitochondrial DNA. We're going to take care of folks because that's just what we do. We make sure that people have what they need. But it's time for us to recognize what that actually is, where it actually comes from, and how we can use that, not just to make sure that we're okay, not just to survive, but how can we use that mother work to thrive? How can we use that to help to liberate our people?
Love it, love it. Can we go back a little bit and what led you up to this journey? Like maybe, what do you have in undergrad, high school? You don't have to go back so far, but leading up to this point, definitely you wanted to make some changes and some adjustments. And you said, hey, I want to go after my PhD. Did you work in corporate? Can you talk about some of that transition?
Sure. So I will actually start back in high school. I'll start there. I am a native Clevelander. Shout out to Cleveland Central Catholic High School. That's where I went to high school, class of 98. I see y'all in these streets. So back there, I started a group called Breaking the Ice, and ICE was an acronym for Initiating Community Education. So it was me and a couple of other classmates who identified as Latinx, and as people of color at this Catholic school, we were like, hey, we need to do something, and we want to make our imprint and leave a legacy. So back in 96, I've been doing this work. I've been starting things and bringing people together and, making icebreakers with name tags. I've been doing that for a majority of my life. So that's kind of where it started for me. My dad was a general in the Black Nationalist Army here in Cleveland, particularly in the riots of '68 in the Glenville neighborhood. My dad was really active in that. So it's something that's been a part of who I am. I was born into an activist family. I was raised as one. And so my journey that started really, when I was born, but the personal part of my journey began in high school when I began seeking. So I went to undergrad. I was a business major though in undergrad. And shockingly enough, I flunked out undergrad. I went to Xavier in Cincinnati. I went there for a couple of years, but like I said, I was a business major. And I took that tax accounting class twice, and it just wasn't working out for me.
Talk about that those hurdles to get over when we want to just jump right into what we love doing. Like, is
Right.
these hurdles in place to I don't know. I went to Shaw High, so a lot of the stuff, like, I didn't know how to study.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about taking tests, anything about even I didn't even rank high enough to even start my major yet. Can you talk about something like that?
For sure. Yeah, same way. So like I went to Central Catholic. I was born in here, Cleveland. I'm from Huff. My parents never went to college. My dad had a GED. My mom had a high school diploma. So I didn't know how to study either. And I'm blessed and highly favored, right? I've taken a state test and they told me that I was a gifted kid. So I would show up to school and do the work, and that's all that I would have to do. But when I got to university, it was different. And so I had to begin to apply myself differently, and I didn't have a blueprint for that. And so the route that I took was me losing my funding, flunking out of school. Probably about 2 years later, I ended up finishing at a small school in Atlanta with a general business degree. From there, I went to work. I worked in nonprofit. I did work in for-profit for a while at the bank while I was getting my degree, but really working in this field, I was an AmeriCorps member for City Year. So City Year is the AmeriCorps program where young people do, physical transformative community service back when I was a Corps member. And that really gave me an opportunity to see the world differently. So being this Black girl from the hood, yeah, I went to the school and yeah, I knew some things. Like my parents made sure to expose me to things, but this was something new, a way for me to blend my educational background and my activism and my organizing. So I worked there for 3 years. I came back to Cleveland. I worked at a local nonprofit for about 6 years, and then I got fired. I thought I was doing something too, because I had just got a promotion. You know how you be working, you just get this promotion, you're like, oh, I'm doing something. And then, my executive director called me in her office on a Friday afternoon.
I think that's needed though. I think you need to get,
Everybody
need. Go ahead.
Because I never would have left. I was gonna leave. I had this other job was offered to me, but when I put in my resignation, she made me feel like I was needed there. All the demands that I gave her, she gave them to me. Everything that I asked for, she gave them to me. And then a month later, she turned around and terminated me. And so that was a real wake-up call to say that I needed to work on myself, right, and my identity. Once I left that job, it was like I didn't know who I was anymore because I was the diversity professional. I did like diversity trainings. I went into schools. Like I would go into schools and they would call me the bully lady. Like that was my identity. I was really proud of that and I had worked towards that. But when that was taken away from me, I had to really sit back and say, Shamar, who are you? Who do you want to be? And what kind of mark do you want to leave on the world? And as you said, that was a blessing because when we start working, we get bills, we get commitments, and it's difficult for us to stop working. But if the Creator hadn't set it up like that, I don't know where I'd be. But that was almost 10 years ago. And from there, it allowed me the opportunity to really spend more time with my children. I had 2 young children at the time, so I could be the mom that, I wanted to be in that moment for them. Is when I went back to grad school eventually. And so I got a master's of education, and I had no vision for being like Dr. Arki. That wasn't a part of anything until I got my master's degree. And the way that the world was, this was right around, it was shortly after the last recession. So many recessions. Shortly after the last recession.
Another punch in the face that was needed.
And so even in that, economically, I knew that I had to have multiple lines of business, multiple income streams. And it was a colleague who turned to me and was like, let's do some consulting. Everyone else is doing it. And I was like, huh? That wasn't really, I didn't understand how to transition my life and my brand and my world from being a full-time employee to an independent consultant, like a 1099. But it was one of the best things that I've been able to do. I've been able to finish school. I've been able to really do my research, get some publications out there, do a variety of work all across the country, actually all across the globe. So it's been an amazing journey.
That's dope. That's dope. Speed me up to now, being slapped in the face again. So I know you do a lot of impersonal meetings and giving talks and all of this type of stuff. And I know you had a lot of stuff lined up like everybody else. Tell me the adjustments, the pivots you done had to make, and any type of, restructuring anything.
All right. So, the creator staple, I will say that I do have an annual event that I run called the Ellipsis Institute for Women of Color in the Academy. This would have been our third year. Last year, we got lots of awards from the campuses that we were participating with. So we had a lot of momentum building up to this event that we were supposed to have at the end of March. And then it was just like, nope, we're not having it. And so the income piece is important. I'm not minimizing that. That's very important. So it's different for me this time because that's my intellectual property, number one. Number two is I have a team. So I have a team of people who I'm working with. And so that's the real pressure that I feel, not necessarily the pressure around me and my financial stability, but around these folks that I've recruited and told them that I would be able to support them. Not to say that like I'm paying the people the big bucks, but as a consultant, I've been doing this for a while. I understand that you have things set up for your livelihood and your family. And so that's really something that has been weighing heavy on me, is how am I connecting the people who work for me to make sure that they're financially sound during this time. So resources, grants, other clients, whatever needs to be done, and really trying to get the folks that I work with to expand their brand a little bit. So we may be doing things that are outside of what we are energized by doing. So like I have a lot of skills. Like I can do a spreadsheet, I can do that. That's not what I want to do. But it may be what I have to do, right? So I can buy some groceries next week for my children. So thinking about it in that sense, but then and also the sense of building your resume too.
All right, that's dope. Yeah. Hold on. Oh, let's talk about something. It's been kind of a question I got as far as I've been having a problem connecting with my students because they don't have internet, don't have computers, the schools don't know who. So we got this huge digital divide thing, and being in education, how do you see this future of the new normal, and where you see it going, and what needs to happen, or do you see anything happening, or just talk on that.
All right, the digital divide. This is hilarious because when I was an undergrad, so this was like a long time ago, this was like 20 years ago, the conversation around the digital divide was just happening. And I was in a scholarship pageant. It's a scholarship pageant. And my question was, like, what do you think about the digital divide? So I think it's really interesting that we're having this conversation 20 years later. And essentially, nothing has changed. I think that it's going to be very important for us, grassroots, community members, those of us who are on the front line, to demand the things that we need and to understand that we have the power, we have the collective power because we have the numbers. So we may not be at the decision-making tables, but after the pandemic, there is going to be a window. I can't say how long it's going to be, but I know that there's going to be a window where we can make these demands and we can say what we need for our communities. And if we need a one-on-one match from the public school district for our students, then that's the demand that we need to make. If we need to make sure that we have Wi-Fi hotspots in our community, then those are the demands that we need to make. But I think it's up to us right now to really come together and put that list together, talk to one another, communicate, dialogue, come to this end place where we're all speaking the same language, so that no matter if the district is talking to a parent one-on-one, if they're talking to a parent group, if they're talking to teachers, right? If they're talking directly to students, which they probably do more often, they get the same message that this is what we need from our community. And I think that's how we create that long-term sustainable change. Just thinking about education, the digital divide, and the things that we need.
So, can you talk a little bit more about, let's just say we got some young individuals basically watching this. Any advice to help them along the journey? Anything you would tell your students, anything you want anybody to know about? You could talk about being a woman of color, just our generation, anything like that.
I want to encourage people to take care of yourself. Like, that's number one. This is, so thinking about social, we've seen in the beginning, the first few weeks, we saw lots of memes that was like, oh, I got a new book, a new program, I got this new series. And the honest truth for me was that those first 2 weeks, I was trying to make sure that my family and I were okay, right? It wasn't about what I can produce. It was about making sure that I'm understanding what's going on based on the limited information that we get from the media, and making sure that everyone has what they needed. And I want to encourage young people, particularly. I want to encourage women. I want to encourage moms, creatives. We have to take care of ourselves. If we are not well, the things that we produce are going to be, excuse my Swahili, shitty. They're just going to be horrible, and they're not going to stand, and they're not going to withstand the test of time. And it's not going to be this art that you want to continue to share with other people. What's most important about our art and the things that we produce, our outputs, is that they are reflections of us. And so we've got to do the work on ourselves to make sure that what we are putting out in the community is healthy for everyone else to take in. That they might not experience it the way that you experienced it, but it's whole when they get it, and they can take it apart, and they can interpret it the way that they need to. But for us as artists and creatives, we've got to take care of ourselves. And for me as a writer, as a curator, those first 2 weeks, being really honest, my anxiety was on a million. And so I had to do some more yoga. I had to sit in the dark room. I had to drink my lavender and chamomile and valerian root tea. And a couple of other things. But I had to make sure that I was well, because I can't help my son with his homework if I'm not well, right?
Right.
I can't be on the line for my clients if I'm not well. I can't go to the grocery store for my mom if I'm not well, because I can't go see her if I'm not well. So it's a matter of, we constantly want to be out for others, but at some point, the first point, we've got to take care of ourselves.
Right, that's dope. How's it been homeschooling? And you homeschooled before?
No, I haven't homeschooled before. It's been interesting seeing the difference in the school systems. I have two sons. They go to two different school systems. So my oldest son, his school had them kind of together. They were just kind of prepared already for something like this to happen. But the school that my youngest son goes to, they were not prepared. And so it's been, talk about the digital divide. Talk about
Right.
the digital divide, really trying to, it's create autonomy with him to do his own work, and I'm not teaching him. Like, he's 10 and he attends a Montessori school. So he has this continuity where he can figure this out on his own. But then he's at home. So there's this question around, oh, can you help me? Can you do this? I don't know. And I have to remind him about his autonomy that he has. And he didn't lose it just because he's not in that physical building. He still has it.
Right, that's dope. I guess talk about what's next for you, like at this point where we're not going back to the new normal. we may be not seeing daylight until 2021 looks like. So, I mean, it seems like they're moving, they're going to open up slowly but surely. But, you know, I don't know, like, I don't know if I'm going, to be honest, I don't know if I'm going back to any of my programs that I got, to be honest. I just saw Cleveland Heights just lay off, like, we got so many people unemployed. I don't even know that the big corporations that I'm working with are going to have the money for training. So how do you see the economy changing, and how, you know, talk about that some?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I see it happening in a couple of ways. I agree with you. I think that there's going to be this gradual reopening of the world. I think the implications for us as 1099 employees is that we will be the last people who are offered those contracts again. I think that means for us understanding the value of the work that we do, but then also becoming our own owners. So cutting out the middleman, right? So maybe we don't have to have this contract with the school building or the school district. So why doesn't the foundation give the money directly to the artists? You know, so that's what I see for Sankofa Circle. So I see Sankofa Circle as being this premier institution that provides fiscal agency and capacity building for artists in Cleveland. And I want the circle to work directly with these financial institutions. Here's the thing. We know that there is a nonprofit industrial complex in Cleveland, particularly with the foundations. I won't name them, we know who they are, right? And in the last 5 years, there have been significant gains from the arts-based community from these institutions. So they've heard them, they've listened to them, and they've responded. They've responded with programs, but they've also responded financially, like by pumping more money into the community so that more money gets to the artists and it doesn't get stuck in this whole nonprofit structure. So I see that happening, period. In addition to and in conjunction with is not enough. The pennies, you know, the less than $100,000 that they want to throw at us is not enough money. It's not. And so I see Sankofa Circle as being that agency that pushes these foundations to really understand the impact of arts and activism in the community. And I think that after this pandemic, they will have a different perspective about it. And like I was saying before around what's your like your list of demands, I think that's our list of demands to say that, you know, if something like this happens again, we need somebody in these streets to have our back. And it's not to say that the institutions that we are contracted with don't have our back right now, but they can't. They can't have our back because you don't have their back. Right. You don't have their back or our back. You got your own back. So it's time for these institutions to really begin to support community. And I can see Sankofa Circle moving into that space.
So talk about like some young people, like who qualifies to come into the Sankofa Circle. Talk about the young people, kind of dumb down it a little bit on what you would do for them and why this is needed and why this is important.
All right. So I'm going to help you get your whole life. Right? So I'm going to run your back office for you. You'll come to me and you can come to me and continue to be a creator. And it's almost kind of like, oh, I'm your manager, your producer, your agent, call me what you want. You know what I mean? Don't matter. Because I want you to continue doing your art in the street, whoever that person is. And I just want to help to amplify that message. So we'll come, we'll clarify your message, and then we'll help to amplify it. And depending on each person, where they are in their career, the assistance the plan that we'll develop will be different. Because I've gotten artists, like I started with Shooting Without Bullets, and I started with them from the very beginning, right? Met with Amanda when it was just an idea. And so I've been around to help them develop and build capacity to get to where they are. But for instance, I have another client who is already established in her programming, and it's just about opening her up into a new market and amplifying her message. So she doesn't need the fiscal agency. She doesn't need the website build. She just kind of needs the coaching, right? And then the event curation, we'll do a couple of events together. So it's, we have a wide variety of partners that we work with. So for instance, we have an in-house printer. So those folks who work with the Circle, we get a great discount on printing. And so it's business
I didn't know that.
it's t-shirts, it's pop-up banners, it's whatever you need, we can print it for you.
So can you talk about the relationship a little bit more with Shooting with Bullets, like Before You Matter and what you saw that, can you talk about that song with Amanda King?
So I met Amanda. I was working on my dissertation and doing some research at Case Western Reserve University. She was a law student there. And it was in the midst of, Amanda has an amazing story about like how she got to Case. And you know, you should probably reach out to her and do a little check in with her. That's an amazing story. But it was in the wake of Black Lives Matter. And so me being from Cleveland, a local activist, and Amanda not necessarily being from Cleveland, but being an artist activist and a student, we were in the same room on campus. And you know those times where you're in a room full of people that you kind of don't know, but somebody says something or somebody does something, and you look up and you lock eyes with someone because somebody said something that was real shady. That's kind of how it happened. We were in this event on campus and it's happening, and I'm looking around like, is anyone else experiencing this the way that I'm experiencing it? And we caught eyes. And from there, we just began to build. I would see her on campus. We both share a mentor, Dr. Rhonda Y. Williams, who's the founder of the Social Justice Institute at Case. So, you know, we kind of developed this relationship by being in the same place, but it's in the wake of Black Lives Matters. So on campus, there are events happening all the time, speakers, there are die-ins, and she said, I have this idea and I want to tell you about it. She knew that I was from Cleveland, I'm an activist and I work with young people. And so we talked about it. I can remember it was when Beyonce was on tour the first time. And we sat outside. It was a nice summer day, and we sat, and she told me about it. And I was like, this is an amazing concept. Thinking about giving young people cameras in the wake of Black Lives Matter in order for them to think before they shoot. And letting them tell the story about their community and how they feel they're seen. It was revolutionary and amazing, and using photo voice. And from there, I was just like, okay, I'm in. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do. And she began running her program that summer at Newbridge Center for Arts and Technology. And there was Black Lives Matter week that summer, and it was the same week that the RNC was in Cleveland.
Okay.
So I spent the afternoon with a group of students at Newbridge. They were so amazing. You know that when you work with these young people and they are just dope, and you're just like, oh my God, y'all are so dope. So she had been working with them for a couple of weeks, and she asked me to come in and do a little bit of work with them, and they were so dope and so amazing. And we left there and we went down to protest at the RNC, and like, there's been no looking back. There's been no looking back. In one of my presentations, I have a photo. This was right after Public Square was redone, and she's down there taking snaps, and there's this Black girl dancing in the fountains, you know, at Public Square. And it's so timely to think about the reasons we were down there. She was surrounded by white men with guns, but she was like, I'm about to do the nay-nay in this water. And like those experiences really helped to shape my relationship with Amanda so that we work together in the future. And Shooting Without Bullets has done amazing work over the
I think it helped. I think it helped shape everything with your movement. I think every little thing we do help move us towards, you know, this final goal that we're trying to get to. Give me some last final words, and you know, let everybody know how they can get in contact with you and all of that stuff, and anything else that I missed.
Okay, last words. Be good to yourself. Give yourself some grace. Take care of yourself. We are not working from home. We are in the midst of a pandemic, attempting to work, attempting to homeschool our kids, attempting to take care of ourselves. So let's just get real about what's happening. we are in the midst of something that has never happened to those of us who are alive. And we got to take it day by day. So take care of yourself and be good to yourself. You can reach me, at Sankofa Circle International.org. Our website's dropping. What do I want to say? You can reach me at Sankofa Circle International.org. We will have a launch party when we can.
Cool.
So when we gather, when we are able to gather again, those of you know me, you know I love to throw a party with some wine. So we will definitely have a launch party, an open house to invite all our creators to come down and celebrate with us. But find us on social, Sankofa Circle International. You can find me on social. I'm Black, feminist. And I think that's it.
For signing up for the circle, is it anything that's just hitting you up and saying, I need some help, blah, 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 blah?
Yeah. Hit us up on social, on the website. There's a contact form. I just really kind of ask you, hey, what's your name? What's your phone number? What's your email? And then we'll talk because I want to learn more about you from you. And it's difficult to do that through, just through the internet. So I like to do a couple of one-on-ones, a couple of ideations, and then we'll see where that takes us.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm part of the circle too, just to let y'all know.
Yes, Jayworking is a member of the circle. Check out our website. He is featured.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you.